first point, you need to set up the rules. Second point, you need to block the categories. Third, you need to build a good analytics system that will help you to dedicate the problem. I find this index report very useful, very practical, and very interesting. For me, it brought insights. Also, it gave me confirmation of my thoughts, and it gave me a roadmap for future tests, or just a confirmation to see if we experience the same.
Ad quality is easy to talk about in abstract terms. We know what is wrong. We know what a bad ad is. Maybe it's code, maybe it's the content, it's harmful, or it's spammy. We understand that. But what is useful is to understand, what do we do because of it? And that's why I love the opportunity to talk to someone who does this firsthand, knows it firsthand, and has lessons to share, because that's always the pure gold. And that brings me to you, Nastassia. What a great way to come to you, the segue of talking about pure gold and then having you here as a guest. So I think that's amazing. We couldn't hope for a better way to do it.
Yeah, thank you, Peggy, for inviting me. It's an honor to be here on your podcast.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Well, it's an honor to have you because, yes, you are Senior Ad Monetization Manager at Digitalchemy, which is a utility app company. Exciting for me because I'm usually looking at gaming, but no, it's non-gaming, which is even more interesting because you have a portfolio of 45 plus mobile apps. And more impressive than that, you are a one-person, one-woman team. You do it all. You are the AdMon team. We met Apps Forum in Portugal. Great show. Brought us together and made me understand a little bit more about your daily job as well. So maybe for the audience, give me an idea as a one-person, one-woman show. I mean, obviously, it takes grit, takes perseverance and discipline, but what does it really look like day to day?
It's true that I'm a one-person monetization team, but when it comes to practice, basically that means that I sit in the intersection in between monetization, product, analytics. But the main goal is to grow revenue without hurting end user experience. And depending on what is the main priority for the strategy, for the months, for the app, it depends. So I can do part of strategy, part of troubleshooting, part of setup, part of communication with the partners. It all depends. But it's true that with ad quality is becoming more and more important topic to speak about and to deal with. It became also bigger part of my day-to-day tasks.
And we'll get to that in a moment because the realization itself is actually quite intriguing. There are a lot of publishers out there that don't make this connection. And that's what you did at Apps Forum in Portugal. And I've heard you on stage where you're very clear that, ad quality is not just a partner issue. It's not just a UX issue. It's a product health issue. It's about monetization. And you've spoken out very clearly, very strongly on that. Curious, how can you be so sure? What is it that you experienced maybe firsthand that says, you know what, there's a connection and it matters?
Yeah, nothing changed. I'm still very sure about it because we are working with it every day. We see the user reviews every day. And in the end, users, they do not realize the difference in between advertisers, ad placement, publisher, network. They will blame an app. They will never blame that ad placement that leaked the problem. So that's why it's the point to take the responsibility in your hand and to deal with it.
You're talking about the performance and the link, the disconnect between performance, product health. The metrics look great. The metrics look fine, but the product does not. And you've lived that. You've lived that firsthand. But what does that really look like in real life? I mean, how do you tell something is off?
I think in that terms, we're fighting against the timing because we can see that everything is well with our revenue, or it can even go a bit higher. But then with time, we will see a leak in retention, in user reviews, in LTV, for example. And this is the moment when you need to connect. Is it because of the ads? And this is the moment when it's very difficult to do that connection.
You said it's difficult, but you did manage it. So what was it that you were looking at that things weren't going right? Was it just saying, oh, look, CPMs and then LTV, or something, retention maybe was weak? I mean, how did you tell?
I would say that it's still ongoing process. It needs some iterations, and in the end of each iteration, you have a clear path what to do next. So first came user reviews that they rise a lot. We were receiving a lot of reviews that where users were telling that we show a bad ad to them. So that's why I started to review ad creatives by myself, because I want to be assured that is it true or not. And once we figured out that yes, it started to be more and more uh, popular with impressions, then we started to troubleshooting with ad networks. Then it started to appear on topics on the conferences. So that's like a big ball that is gaining more and more importance.
Yeah, we're all talking about. I mean, it is a hot topic, and it's because monetization matters, right? I mean, it's how you grow. You do grow through acquisition, but it's about keeping people. And you have, amongst your apps, I'm sure you have multiple monetization models, subscription being one of them, correct?
Yes, we do have some apps that are based on subscriptions, and you said it very correct that now is also very important to keep the users in the app, because acquisition also became a problem. And when at the very beginning you started to bump your users ads without even allowing them to see what your app can give them, or even they can pay for it in the end, but you will destroy it from the very beginning.
I've spoken with a number of marketers that just wreck their acquisition strategy because you go into the ad and it's just like this infinite loop of it's going to redirect you out to an app store to do something, and you just can't get back to the point of entry. I've looked at the numbers, I've looked at the reports, they're out there. App Harbor has reports, but I'm also hearing about it from Google, AdMob, from Deloitte. Everyone's talking about what is that, and you said it yourself, that invisible ad quality tax, right? Because you have a monetization model, but there's a tax on it when you're using bad ads, whether their content is harmful or offensive, bad UX, whatever that is. Where does that tax show up for you? Or what have you seen? Where have you seen the impact of bad ads on your business?
It's very interesting that that tax will not affect monetization directly and immediately. It will first tax your retention, so you will see the loss in retention. Uh, Also, sessions might get shorter, so it can vary from app to app, but definitely it will affect on your user experience metrics.
Mm-hmm. And can you give me, and I mean, I don't want to push you to numbers, but I'm always fascinated by the hit your revenues can take because of this, your shorter sessions, which means, you know, engagement, retention, ultimately LTV.
If we want to measure which loss bad ads can lead to, then is a practical way to do A/B testing. For example, if you are using, let's say, conservative templates and you want to really to know if you will go to aggressive ones. So do A/B tests, then you can see the difference and you can decide whether this is acceptable for your business model or it will hurt LTV in the way that it will be impossible to recover later.
So it is a lot down to understanding what impacts monetization. So there's testing, there's thinking, but ultimately, we're looking at the impact on monetization. And I wonder sometimes when I speak with other marketers, are we confusing something here? Because we're looking and saying, oh, performance off the charts. That's an isolated metric, and we're looking at that and we're saying, wow, it's working. And then we're looking at the other side of it and looking at the health of the product and saying, no, there's an impact there. So where are we? And maybe also, how can we stop seeing things in the data that aren't there?
It's true that retention can consist of many parts. It can be damaged by monetization, but also it can be damaged just because product is out of track according to their competition. So that's where I think is very useful to implement special events that will track what is going on after the ad is shown, because we know everything before the ad will show. What is the match rate? What is the eCPM impression? But after impression is like a blind spot for now. We don't really know if the user finished to watch an ad, if the user was redirected and then he never went back. So I think while knowing this whole picture, it will also help better to answer questions about the setup that every app will have.
Is that what you're doing, by the way, Nastassia, that you're looking more at, like, they're exiting? Why are they exiting? Where are they exiting? So that's really like your red flag that you're focused on.
Yeah, that's very important regarding ad quality, and this is what we are doing right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, that's what you're doing, and that's what I admire, because you are a doer. You're looking at it, and you have to look at it as a small team. But that's just the point, Publishers have ownership. They do have some control. You're a publisher. Let me understand from you. You don't control everything, obviously. What is within your control and what isn't within your control when it comes to ad quality?
When it comes to ad quality, is up to us not to show an ad or not, but to filter it. So we can create a filter. We already have ad quality reviews from networks that we can use. So maybe we can try to use them in a more efficient way. Yeah, I started to review it manually. Of course, it is taking a lot of time. So I raised that topic on a company level, and my colleague from Q&A, he was able to create an AI tool that is helping me now to review all these creatives way faster and to detect them way faster. It saved a lot of time for me, and it allowed me to work more efficiently on other parts of monetization. I think we started with the basic and simple things that you can do. Is blocking categories that you don't want to be shown in your app? Is the moment of reviewing setup for your creatives and speaking with partners networks, so you will be assured that they comply with that rules. And then, if you still see after all these manipulations that your user experience is hurting, then you need to take more actions. Maybe review manually your app as a user to detect which placement can cause the problem. Of course, from the other side, you have analytics that will help you with this. But I also think is very important to do, because we had kind of advantage before of adding ad as much as possible everywhere, like a template, copy paste. But now we need to come individually to each app. And even before, we were trying to add placements just because it was a frequent event for a user. Maybe now it's damaging the flow. So maybe it's better to put it a bit lower frequency for that event, but then to help to save that user experience.
Because that's part of the ad quality experience, is not just the content or the cadence, but it's like, where is it in the journey? And that's something you're going to look at app by app across 45 plus of them. Who should own this inside a company? I mean, you own it at Digitalchemy, but in an ordinary company, a publisher watching the show, who should be owning ad quality, or can it be owned? Is it across the company?
I think that that quality is a natural prolongation of monetization, is what is going on after the ad was shown. So, in my opinion, and what I see, ad quality belongs to monetization responsibility. It can be a little bit in that intersection in between products and analytics, but definitely there should be an ownership, or it will be like a blind spot that nobody will care.
Speaking about caring, a lot of publishers are saying there is a problem. There is a problem with ad quality. Where does that mindset break down for you? Or do you think that, at some level, that's just saying it's not my problem?
It could be the problem of the network, and I honestly think it is the problem of a network, but you will never let users understand it.
That is true. Because they're going to be complaining. I mean, you said yourself, the trigger that started all of this was also the reviews. Then you realize you have a problem because they are saying the app, not the advertiser, the app is showing me the bad ads. So you're going to take the rap literally, and you're going to take the hit in the revenues.
Yeah, that's what's going on until you're taking any action. Users, they will just lost their trust, and they will write you that I'm deleting your app and I'm going to a competitor, and that's it.
And you said yourself on stage, publishers need to take more control and they need to step up to this. What does that look like in practice? Because I'm talking to a lot of different marketers, a lot of different people in AdMon, and they're saying, well, number one is have policies. Others are saying, no, it means making informed decisions about who I work with. So I need to, do my homework and understand, what do ad partners do beyond performance.
I think the first step is to make a structure, is to realize that you need to take care of that quality and write it into points. First point, you need to set up the rules. Second point, you need to block the categories. Third, you need to build a good analytics system that will help you to dedicate the problem. Fourth, track user reviews, and so on. So you need to put it on a structure. You need to do regular reviews, not like I will do this and I will forget later on because I did something with that quality. Everything evolves. That quality evolves. Bad creatives, they will also evolve. So you need always to be on track.
One of the things that's also important increasingly, particularly because the industry recognizes it as an ecosystem problem. It's not a publisher problem. It isn't a network problem. It's everything problem. And that's where the App Harbor Index comes in, because it is ranking in the first rank monetization partners so that you can have a better decision. So it doesn't just rank the partners, it creates better questions for you. So, it's looking at traffic from billions of impressions, looking at non-gaming and gaming, and it's benchmarking demand partners on user safety, user experience, monetization health. You read it, you commented on it as well in my article in ExchangeWire. What did it make you think about?
I find this index report very useful, very practical, and very interesting. For me, it brought insights. Also, it gave me confirmation of my thoughts, and it gave me a roadmap for future tests, or just a confirmation to see if we experience the same. For me, it's a green light that I can go and to communicate with them towards connecting.
So you can connect with them. You have a conversation too, because you can say, look, I saw in the index, this is where you are. So, we have a conversation. I was talking with one admon specialist. He was like, yeah, and this also allows me to have a little bit of an argument. It's like, putting it down to the other ad partners and saying, where are you here? And what are you doing? Tell me about your ad quality policies. it depends on a lot of factors. So anything that you have that you learned in the index or that you're thinking about based on it, about like where should publishers be paying closer attention?
I can say the example of Digitalchemy, for example, supply path that I discovered. I never heard about it before, so it was a really nice insight for me. As we are monetizing on ad mediation mostly, on ad mediation you can monetize both with waterfall and bidding. So that's why that supply path turned out to be very interesting for me and curious, because now I want to check it on our side. Do we see that connection? Do we see that malicious ads can came from the same network but from the different paths?
Now we're getting away from the conversation of, is it a good network? Is it a bad network? Now we're thinking more about like, you know, what is the operational understanding of the stack? You know, we're starting to have informed decisions.
Yeah, and you know what is interesting is that speaking with peers from our other companies, I more and more see the pattern that we are not anymore doing the setups and testing them most of the time. We are the ones who always optimize the ad stack and everything that is connected to it. So this is ad monetization nowadays for me. And ad quality is also belongs to that ad stack.
So, in a word, if you were saying the index, what it's important for, because I think it's a great conversation starter. I think it's, you're able to talk to your partners at a different level and start to be more productive about the conversation. That doesn't, it moves away from being a blame game to like, okay, so what are we going to do? Or for you as a publisher, what does testing need to look like? You know, what are you thinking about how you're going to use it?
I think I'm going to use it as a comparison what is going on in the world and what is going on within our apps. Are we on track? Are we missing something? Is there any new brand safe network? So I didn't know that it's going to be quarterly. For me, it was a very nice surprise.
Something to look forward
Yeah.
to every quarter. Yes.
I'm very glad that Up Harbor took the initiative of doing this. I think our ad monetization world really needs it.
I would agree. You have to have a benchmark to know where you are. And it is something that is, it is with us. This is a topic and we're seeing more about it. We're hearing more about it because it matters. Also, regulators are looking at it. So this is going to stay with us. And when we were talking in prep, we're talking about what you're actually seeing now. You will be seeing the report, but you're also seeing behaviors change, things are different. And, you know, you weren't seeing this maybe a year ago, but now that you're so aware of it, you're seeing malicious, misleading ads are getting through. I mean, what's changed for you? What are you seeing?
I think it's the number of creatives that we're blocking, because in the last quarter, I think it was the maximum of that that we blocked during the whole half a year when we started to look at it carefully. And it's not going down, it's just on the same level. So every time you need to block at the same amount, and it's true that is not going to be better any better. So that means you need to take serious actions to control it. So I think that's very measurable toward ads.
By the time you catch the ad, it's already been shown to a huge number of users.
It's true. I fully agree with you. And if you can't spot them on time, even the difference of days makes sense. So now, when we make sure that we block bad creatives day to day, we see that difference in impressions that are delivered. So now the amount, for example, there were thousands of them, and now it's hundreds of impressions. So the difference is huge. First quarter of 2026 to the fourth quarter of 2025, and we see a slightly decrease in bad reviews. So that means something is going good, yes. And I hope to continue in that way. Of course, after adding more events to track after what happened after impressions, I think it will help even more. But this means that we're already on the right path.
So you're understanding, how you're approaching ad quality, that review process, it's working. But of course, you're only one person. So how's that going to evolve? Because you need to spot the bad ads. You need to flag them fast. You need to stop them before they do more damage.
Yeah, of course, I have hopes that networks will take responsibility at least a little bit, and they will start to do something against it. Today, I had a call with a partner, and again, I raised the topic. I said that we're receiving bad ads, misleading. He said we know about it. We are trying to implement some changes, but it's like this for a second quarter, and nothing is getting better. Again, that means that only publishers should take the responsibility of ownership. And we're also in touch with Up Harbor, but there are some difficulties on our part with formats. So it's still negotiable, and I think it's very nice that we have the opportunity of integrating outsourced tool to help to prevent an app from a bad ads. I think it depends also on the business model of app, because sometimes they want that short-term yield and they don't care what will happen with the retention in the long term. So that's why we're not united towards that quality. And I think that's also why not many networks and not many publishers will take actions.
That's true. It depends on also sort of what you are focused on. But I am talking to more apps that were like, yeah, we just want the quick win. We just want the cash. But now they're understanding that that's not sustainable, and they're sort of building a business model that is going to crash. It's going to crash and burn. You noticed some changes, you saw the behavior, and you understood that. And now you are looking at it. You're looking at a relatively short period. What triggered that? Was there a moment that you said, hey, you know what? This test result or what I'm seeing on paper is going to be bad for my business?
I think that it changed. Before, maybe a couple of years ago, I would say, yes, let's test it, let's try it. And nowadays, I'm more and more cautious about any changes just because we want to protect users. We want to save user experience. We want to keep the retention as high as possible, session lengths as long as possible. And in here, uh, that's the moment when you need to speak with product team and to realize what you are ready to trade off for future.
What's the signal for you that an ad is no longer just monetizing the session, but it's actually breaking down the product? It's breaking the product. We looked at what you look at, for example, people are exiting after seeing an ad. But is that the only signal, or are you looking at others because you're testing, you're evolving this, and you're hands-on, Nastassia? I mean, it is you. So what you notice matters. What are you seeing? What are the signals that you're paying more attention to?
If it's monetization metrics, we will keep an eye on CTR, on clicks, um, and if we will see a huge spike within some period, we will communicate with product team, go into product metrics, and we will check the same date for app removes, for retention, and if we will see the connection, we will try to investigate further. And I think that's how we started to unblock this path, to go deeper into user experience on our own. So you open an app, you really try to see that exactly placement, and you realize that it is intrusive. It interrupts user experience. And you remember back then you were adding displacement, as I said before, as a template just because it was working, and now you see is not anymore. So you need to change your approach.
I want you just to dive a little deeper because I thought there was something very subtle and very important here because you said, for example, that app open ads, um, they could work in a utility app, um, but could damage retention, product signals in games because you've seen both sides, gaming and non-gaming. What does that teach you about context, timing, user expectation? There's a lesson in there, I think, for publishers about, what works in some apps damages the product retention in others, and to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I think when it comes to up open testing with games, in our case, there are many reasons why it failed. First is the product difference, of course. Second is the mediation difference. As I said, AdMob for non-gaming apps, and you use Max for games. And uploading with their app open ads is almost like interstitial, so it's long. And when user just open an app to have fun, to enjoy the game, he see that long ad that will destroy the experience from the very beginning. Of course, it will destroy the retention as well.
Yeah, because the behavior, I mean, a game, I want to jump into it, I want to enjoy it. Maybe with a utility app, and I've seen these apps, and what I do is my husband just like leaves it open, but leaves the phone on the table and like lets it do its thing. 'Cause it is long and it's an interruption. And then usually after that, it's like, well, where was I? So games, that would be a fail. Utility, you might be patient because you want to open up a utility with a purpose. I want to take notes, I want to calculate something. So I want to do something, so I'll wait. Games, not the case. You talked about the signals that you're looking at. We have a lot of people who will relate to this story. They don't have a giant team. They're like you. They're looking at all the signals. They need to be the quality control. They need to understand this and relate to it. But what would you want them to know so that they feel that every win matters?
Well, I just like to have answers for my questions, and when I receive them, it motivates me even more. So I think that's my motivation, to dig and really to have the right exact answer.
So in a way, maybe small teams can do more than they think they can.
They need to decide on the business model and how long the user is staying in the app. If it's long case, so then they need to take actions towards that quality. I think the most important is to set up the structure, to start to check categories that you don't want your users uh, to see, and then decide whether you want to build something on your own as a signals, post ad signals, or you want to work with outsourced tools like Arp Harbor, for example, to help you to fight with malicious ads.
And it is about starting somewhere. It is about starting somewhere, understanding what you need to do. And as you pointed out, and then from there deciding, you're going to do it in-house, you're going to use a solution. But overarching across all of that is the feeling that you can take control of monetization, or that you must take control of monetization. And for some publishers, they don't feel they have it. They think it's somebody else. They think it's beyond them. What do you say to publishers like that you want to say, yes, you can do this and you can take back control. It is within your hands.
Yes, I would say until you will take the control of your ad quality, you will see your users leaving your app, and it's only up to you to change it.
That's very straightforward. It's interesting how far away we are from that. What about policies? I'm just curious, do you have policies? Have you drafted policies in-house that you say, these are the non-negotiables, this and not further?
Yes, we have policies, and I know that it's bad for networks because they want to have as much freedom of showing as it could be. But we try to listen our users, and it's also kind of common. So it was in the very beginning when I started my career path in ad monetization. Already ad blocking exists, and there were some BA tests when you unblock that categories, and then you see that it damage user experience. And I think it's something every company must have even.
What do you say to a company when they're saying to themselves, okay, you're right, I do need policies, but what does that look like in practice? Do people sit down and say, this is what we stand for, this is what we not stand for? I mean, I interviewed John Wright a while back, and he just put it very simply. He's like, you have to decide, what do you want to be known for? What experience do you want associated with your app? And so it's almost like getting to a round table and discussing this, because it's very, very central. It's very important. It's almost like a mission statement. I mean, how does that look for publishers who are saying, yes, I want to have policies to enforce? How do I get to the policies?
First is observing to realize the situation around your app. Nowadays, you can go into a creative center and you can review each category and you can see what ad is shown in each category. Then you can think whether you want this ad to be shown to your user or not. So you need to know your users well. That means you need to communicate with product team towards this. I think that monetization manager should be the initiator of that policy rules, should create his uh, draft, then to speak with the product team to confirm. This should be both ways.
I see. So let the data inform it. In a sense, your policy needs to be user first.
Yes, definitely needs to be user first. And my goal is to be able to say exactly which format, which network, on which app, and which geo brings the biggest damage to user experience.
I like that. So what they have to stop doing is stop thinking that they don't have control, that they can't get started, that you can't wake up, Monday morning, you say to yourself, we're going to start to address this problem, because it is a problem. And speaking of what we can't stop doing, I can't stop talking with you, Nastassia. It's been so much fun and so informative, because you are so practical. This is exactly why I wanted you on the show, because, and also in my article, you're telling us what works and what people need to do to make it work. So thanks so much.
Thank you once again for inviting me, and I'm happy to share information that I hope will help publishers to deal with that quality, and not only. I'm also thankful to the team that I'm working with, because together we're building something that will help in the end to make the right decisions.
I hope your team expands, and so do your wins through paying attention to ad quality and being proactive, not reactive. I think that's key here.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the goal.
Well, let's see what happens. And for everyone else listening in, yes, we are talking about ad quality because this is the Player First Perspectives mini series powered by App Harbor. And yes, if it sparked ideas, interest, download, first of all, the in-app network ad quality index, because that will help you understand how do networks deliver, and that will inform your discussion and your decisions. And if you want to keep the conversation going, I love that. That's why you can join me and everyone else over at the Player First Collective on Slack. And of course, links will be in the show notes. So remember, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episode. And if you've got something to say, well, I'm always only one reply away.